I dropped out of college, so you don't have to. Here are 5 tips to succeed in college so you don't reach my same fate. Anyways, and make sure you watch until the end because tip number 5 is the most important tip that I can give anyone. It's the #1 reason why I went from a 4.1 high school graduate to a second year college dropout. First of all, I want to explain why I even dropped out. You're probably asking, how do you go from earning a 4.1 GPA in high school to completely flunking and dropping out? I ask myself that same question every day. I was asking myself. I literally was and still am. I reached a point where I was no longer happy at school. I was not happy with my major. I was working a job while attending school, trying to manage my mental health on top of trying to chase my dream as a content creator. All of it just all came at once, and if you've experienced mental health, then you know that you've reached a breaking point. And the remedy to what I see now as rock bottom was ghosting my job and dropping out of school. You know, I made several mistakes in my years of going to my first university. That's why I want to make sure I give you guys some good tips so that you guys do not end up in the same place that I was. Completely burnt out, unrecognizable, completely unhappy. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. So I just want to be able to give you guys some advice that I wish I had. And I genuinely believe that I am worthy, incredible enough to give some tips because I went from flunking to earning a 100 on my first test of the semester. I'm gonna have to show you guys because 100, that's me, that's my score. So take it or leave it. Let's get into the tips. Tip number 1 is going to be picking the right major. From my experience, I picked a major that sounded cool. I was fairly good in math. I was pretty creative. You know, I thought, hey, math, a little bit of creativity. Why not engineering? I just kept hearing engineering, you know. Engineering is so cool. Engineers get paid so well. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get paid well. So I thought to be an engineer. That was my first mistake. I was just thinking about the money, but you have to understand that it's not just about the money, it's about the longevity in that path. Like, if you cannot see yourself 10 years from now still doing that major, still working down that field, then you might be in the wrong major. I think that was the moment where I realized, like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. I thought 10 years from now, can I see myself being an engineer? And I couldn't. You know, when I thought about it at first, I envisioned myself having money and people were gonna say,
oh, she's so smart, she's so successful.
But I didn't think about how I would feel actually being in that career. A big tell of that was when I was in my classes for that major. I realized that there were not a lot of people like me in my classes. It was so hard to find people like me in those classes, in this specific field that I was going down. So it's like little things like that that you have to consider. Like, are you gonna be happy in that field? And then also when it comes to picking a major, I personally feel like you should pick something that is going to add value. I feel like a lot of the times people just kind of pick majors just so that they can go to college. They don't necessarily pick something that they can actually see themselves creating a career out of once they graduate, unless you have a vision and you follow through with that. I applaud you. Make sure you pick a major that has a decent paying salary so that it's a trustworthy career that, you know, the 4 years that you dedicated your life to are gonna help set you up for a good future. Pick a major that is connected to your passions and what you basically already kind of have a little bit of a knowledge on, and kind of what was your forte. I feel like if I had chosen marketing, media, something a little more creative based, I would have been a lot happier. I probably would have already graduated, but it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. So now that you know your major, tip number 2 is going to be picking a college and or university, whatever. When I first was looking into school, I wanted to be an architectural engineer. I would unseriously say, I like Minecraft, so I feel like do architecture. That's so unserious, but I was literally 17 years old picking a major. Like, how serious can that be? How can you expect a 17, 18-year-old to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives? But I digress. When it came to picking my college, I went with Virginia Tech. I had already accepted them before I had even realized that they did not have the specific field that I wanted to go down. They did not have architectural engineering within their program. And that was a little heartbreaking at first because I felt like I was already forced to kind of pick something that was kind of far away from who I naturally was. But then having the one thing that I did try to settle on not even be available for me to pick was like, oh, the universe is playing me. The universe is trying to say something. But at the time, I didn't know how to decipher all of those signs. That was another mistake of mine. Once you find what major, what program you want to go with, be firm on that and choose a school that fits your wants, desires, and needs. And I did not do research on my school's area before I went because it was around COVID time. Class of 2020, I pray for us every day. Class of 2020 was done so dirty. I think we're all kind of screwed up because of COVID. So I think class of 2020 definitely deserves some reparation and some type of grace. I didn't get the chance to tour the campus because of COVID. We all had to do virtual tours. I know for me personally, I didn't really get a good feel of what the college town was going to be like. I didn't realize that it was going to be kind of rural. I knew it was over there, but you know, as a teenager, things don't really settle in. You know, me and old East Coastal girly who's used to going to the beach and having all types of cities around her to travel to and explore, and didn't experience too harsh of winters. I did not realize that going to Blacksburg was going to be such a culture shock for me, especially with the demographic. Living in the 757, you see a mix of so many different type of people. So for me to go there and like, the demographic was just like a lot different than what I was used to. It wasn't terrible at first, you know, you're here to get your education, you know, it happens, but it just over time, it just started to get old, and I missed having diversity. And you have to realize that once you go to school, depending on what school you choose, you're gonna be completely independent. If you're gonna choose a school that's 5 hours away like me, you have to make sure that you are prepared for that independency and are okay with the independency at that school. Coming back home and having dinners made every weekend was not something that I got to experience as a college kid that I heard a lot of other college students got to experience because they live right up the street or were just like an hour and a half away from home. And I was handling it okay, but as each mistake was piling up, it got harder and harder and harder. Not only are you picking the school, but you are picking the city as well, or state. Make sure that you are comfortable with where the school is, not just the school. I think that's very important that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. Advice number 3 is going to be your friends and social life. I know we all know that we're going to college for the college parties and yada yada yada, but we think of that and then we get to school and no one's came up to you and introduced themselves, and you didn't get signed up for a club yet, and it's hard to find people that you think you would be friends with on social media, and then you're a year in and you're like, whoa, I don't have any friends, like what's going on? Luckily for me, I went to college with a friend that I had from high school, which was so perfect. I played sports with her, she was in a lot of my classes in high school. That was so fun. We had this like really cool friend group. Like freshman year, it made college so much better for me because I really remember like how having mental health issues and things like that, I would isolate myself in my dorm room. It would be like,
Hey, like we miss you, come hang out with us.
and I'd be like, okay. And they literally would like pull me out of my shell, would have dinner with them, would have breakfast with them, would study with them, would have parties with them. Like Halloween with that friend group was so fun. Got so drunk, blacked out drunk. I always show this picture because it's so funny and embarrassing. I'll show it for a second. I know you guys want to see so bad. But that friend group made college so much better. I was already going through a lot. It was already a big change for all of us, I'm sure. And I'm positive that that friend group helped all of us kind of just get through the transition. So you have to force yourself to be social if you're not that social. And I would say go to college and create a different persona. If you were anxious in high school, try to be someone that's a little more extroverted when you get to college. I mean, you basically have a clean slate, depending on what school you go to. If it's not a lot of people from high school that's there, to become a new version of yourself. Use that opportunity to be a version of yourself that wants to experience new things, and just gotta try different stuff. You gotta be social, you know, find where your people are and stick with that. A lot of the times when you're alone in college, you're doing all of your schoolwork alone. I know for me, it's easy for me to zone out. I try to check my phone to look up something real quick and I'm somehow on TikTok doom scrolling for another hour, and that hour could have been used for studying or taking a quiz or whatever. But when you're studying with your friends, there's a set designated time that you guys have together. You have different schedules. So you're like, oh, let's study from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Are you gonna be sitting there accidentally scrolling on TikTok for an hour? No. Usually you'll check your phone, maybe get distracted for a few seconds, and then you realize, oh, like she's studying, he's studying, I should be studying. And you get right back to it. I feel like I'm my most productive when I'm studying or working with a friend. That's why I'm like, get friends that are good distractions. They don't distract you when you actually need to get stuff done, but they distract you when stuff is just too stressful. I can understand distraction. Like that. Your distraction from when stuff is hard, but don't distract me when I need to focus. And that's what friends are for. Advice number 3 is going to be studying and time management. Now this is so important. This is the core of succeeding in college. I mean, we're here to study, we're here to learn. If you are not studying, then what are you there for? Depending on if you're a part-time student or a full-time student. I've always been a full-time student, so I'm always having several classes, and each of those classes always end up having so much work. So if you are not managing your time and studying for each of those classes, that's a recipe for disaster. If you know you have several assignments due on Sunday, do not wait to do them on Sunday. Are you crazy? Speaking to myself, my first week of college back, I did that. So look, I get it. It happens, but that should not be happening every week. Try to get majority of your work done 2 days before the due date. Or schedule that I think I want to start implementing is trying to get all my work done from Monday to Thursday, so that Friday, Saturday, Sunday can be used for hanging, relaxing, studying, or getting ahead of even more coursework. Set times for studying and actually take good notes. One thing that I make sure to do this go around with going back to school is I said that I was going to be an avid note taker. quicker, and that has changed my college experience already. I'm only 4 weeks in and I already feel like such a different student than I was when I was at my previous university. I have all different types of highlighters, stationery, pens, and favorite notebooks and sticky notes. You just have to like romanticize the note taking. Like, I'm gonna be so real, when I go to my classes, I see some people in there scrolling on their phones. They don't even have their laptop out. They don't have a notebook out, or if they do have a notebook out, they don't actually like organize it. Some people use their computers, but they're just typing it. Like, they're not adding colors, they're not sectioning it, they aren't adding details to the notes or even trying to take notes, which is crazy to me. We're each paying money to be here. Why are we in here and not? Anyways, and that's the reason why I got a 100 on my economics test. Economics is not easy to grasp. When I tell you, it sounded like wah, 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 wah. My first class, I'm like, this is a whole different world, but I got a lock in. I studied on my own time. I did my own research on the coursework and took notes in a way that I would understand it. And tip number 5, which is the most important tip. If you are not doing this, you are bound to fail some way. You're either gonna fail your classes, you're gonna fail yourself, or you're gonna fail the people around you and the life that you have to live. If you are not resting and rewarding, I don't know what to tell you. If you have several hobbies, you're also in school, and you're just trying to manage your personal life, that's gonna be hard. That's a lot to handle. College is already a lot. Personal lives are already a lot. You're gonna have to make sure that you're resting. Like, all of those things don't have to be done each day. When I don't get a good night's rest, I can always feel it the next day. Like, just a few days ago, literally, I didn't sleep well. I was dozing off in class and I missed the majority of the lecture. Like, I don't remember what was said really, because I'm busy dozing off. Like, I can't even tell that I'm dozing off. I'm thinking I'm listening, and then I'm jumping up because I'm drifting off. And we don't want that. We want to be attentive. We want to be aware we're in class so we can take notes and study. One dude was dead ass snoring in the class, snoring like a grizzly bear. And you know, there's gonna be some nights where you are gonna have to miss a little bit of rest. I mean, the most successful people in the world usually have some nights where they lose a little bit of sleep to make sure that certain things get done. But you have to make sure that that is not a consistent pattern in your life. You have to make sure that majority of your days, you are getting 8 or more hours of sleep. Seriously, you will feel so much better. When you don't get sleep, you're basically putting your body into a psychosis of state. Like, your body is in survival mode. You just don't function properly when you're in that mode. And then you also have to reward yourself when you do good. College is not easy, no matter what anybody tells you. Any chance that you have to reward yourself, anytime you hit a milestone or you achieve something good, you should reward yourself. Me getting this 100, the day after, once I saw my grade, I was like, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. I'm resting, I'm doom scrolling, I'm bed rotting, and I'm watching Netflix. I just aced my test. I need to reward myself, and I feel like that could be with anything. Waking up on time, having perfect attendance. Reward yourself in little ways like that. Celebrate. Tell your friends and family, like, you think I got a 100 and I didn't go blab my mouth about that? Everybody around me knows I got a 100 on my test, okay? I want to make sure that I don't feel as crappy as I did last time. I was isolating, I wasn't telling people about what I was feeling, my journey, I wasn't sharing my achievements. I cannot have that happen again now that I'm back in school. I just can't. And even being back in school, even showing up to class, even trying is worth the reward. And just simply remember to be in the present moment. Like, your academic career is only a fraction of your entire life. I know it fucking sucks having to study every day, wake up early to go to class and things like that, but you have to realize that this is an opportunity of a lifetime that some people would do anything for. You have to remember that when you're 60, 70 years old, you're gonna remember the moments from when you were in college. Even me, when I wasn't in college, just a few months ago, I felt FOMO from not being in school. I'm like, hey, people are graduating or people are in classes. The school life looks so fun. I wish I was going back to school. I wasn't even out of school for that long. I'm just 22 years old and I was already feeling that nostalgia. So just be happy that you are where you are, whether you're failing, passing, or whatever. Just celebrate yourself and being in this journey, attempting to get your education. You deserve to be celebrated for your hard work. We're only humans. We are not robots at all. There's no way that we can be perfect 24/7. So reward your highs and nurture your lows. And I personally have no regrets. Like, I was nostalgic and I felt like I was missing out on some things, but what I learned from dropping out was something that I don't think people who stayed in school the 4 years straight could have learned. As someone that was a people pleaser and someone that received majority of their validation from academics, the idea of dropping out was the end of the world for me. Deep down, I somehow thought I would become a failure somehow. But look, it's not the end of the world and I'm not a failure. Hopefully, right? So if you ever come to a point where you feel like you have no other option but to drop out, please know that you are not alone, that you can take a break if you need to. Your mental health is just as important as your career. And if no one accepts you as a dropout, here on this channel, we sure do. I don't care what nobody says, we accept you over here. Come here, give me a hug, give me a hug. I know, college is hard, but We're gonna get through this. And if you guys enjoyed this advice, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys are enjoying all of the back to school content, all the productive girly type of content, you are definitely gonna want to stick around and subscribe. I am making all sorts of college content, so you're definitely not gonna want to miss that. I'm in my studious productive girl era and I'm locked in. So thank you guys for watching until the end. If you didn't make it to the end, I just want to give you a kiss if that's okay. Mwah. Thanks. But yeah, stay in school, kids. I'm so funny, aren't I? But yeah, see you guys in my next video. Bye.